Bless you. I'm Papa. Shalom and God richly bless you. I'm Apostle Diana. How are you doing, my dear brother or sister? I'm very good. I'm very good. So this is the last segment on empire, politics, people, Bible, statutes that I have titled Bow or Burn. And this evening we're looking at the book of Daniel and what God says with concerns to statutes and how believers have to act or our response. We are responding to the event of the removal of the statute of Abel Custom, not him alone, but a lot of statutes that have been claimed to be racist and how do you call it? The images are like putting fuel on fire. They remind people of the pain of colonization, the transatlantic slavery, and they are being pulled down. The responses are two. The government says if you touch them, you will burn. The Black Lives Matter says they must go because they reflect, they point not only to our past suffering, but as if in the glorifying of our suffering. In them, they are an epitome in the glorification of our suffering. And what God is saying, we are looking at Daniel chapter 3. And in Daniel chapter 3, we see the preview. We saw previously that in Daniel chapter 2, the king has a dream. It is the king that has a dream. He sees a statue made of gold, silver, clay, and no one can interpret it. Daniel is brought forth and Daniel makes the king understand that interpretation comes from God. Daniel interprets the dream to the king and makes him understand that these are kingdoms, that they are symbolic of kingdoms. In verse 3, the king misconstrues the interpretation of Daniel's dream, since he is the head of gold, and orders that a gold statue be made. I think it is a defiance because Daniel told him point blank that a stone made without hands came to crush the statue. Since Nebucadnezzar thought he was God over the whole world, he erected a gold statue to suggest that there wouldn't be any silver statue, there wouldn't be any clay statue. He is the overall, he is the head, the gold. It was also in defiance to say, if there is any stone that can crush statutes in the realms of the spirit, I'm erecting a physical statue. Let it come and crush it. So Nebuchadnezzar gives us also another interpretation of statues. Daniel tells us that statues are symbols of empire. And we've heard from the British Prime Minister that statues are their history, a remembrance of the empire, the United Kingdom Empire. But Nebuchadnezzar is telling us also that the systems are worshipped. Donald Trump says America doesn't worship the government, as if he's responding to what some people are suggesting, but to God. But Daniel is telling us that if you worship a God that does not promote equal justice and equal rights for all, it is not the God of heaven. It is not the God we know about. It is Baal and Asherah. They were also gods, actually erected in the temple of the house of God, preached by pastors called gods, until God raised a prophet, Elijah, to defy and say, these gods you are promoting is not God. We must question America. Is your God the true God, or it is Asherah and Baal? Because these are the gods of wealth, prosperity gospel. So Nebuchadnezzar erects a golden statue and said, everyone must bow to it, and if you don't bow, you will burn. And Daniel and his friends, and Daniel's friends, refuses to bow, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to that statue, because they understood that every statue is an empire. So if they bow to the statue, if they promote the erection of that statue, they are promoting empire ideals. If they promote if they bow to the statue, they are saying that that statue must stand. Those that are protecting the statue are bowing to the statue. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego tells the king. Daniel chapter 3. The king says, they tell the king, "Oh king, you have made a decree that every man who hears the sound of music must fall down and bow and worship the golden image. And that whoever does not bow to it will be cast into the fiery furnace. But hear ye, O king." He says, oh, okay, these were people who didn't like the four Hebrew men, and so went to gossip about them and said, there are people who don't like to see your statues around. So when they called them, they told the king, "Know ye, O king, we will not bow to your God. We don't support the standing of idols because it promotes empire sentiments. It promotes oppression, white supremacy. We will not bow to it. We will not agree to its standing." And they told the king, "O king, it is not necessary for us to answer you. We will not bow to your idol. Our God in whom we serve will deliver us from your burning fire, because if we don't bow, you put us in the burning furnace. But let it be known," Daniel chapter 3 verse 18, "O king, that we will not serve your gods nor worship your golden image." Now God, there is a place, another verse which says, "And our God will deliver us, and if he doesn't deliver us, we will not worship." The end of the story is that they did not stand. They were not pro-statue. And so they were punished for it. But God came to deliver them. I know, and we all know, that there is always an Uncle Sam somewhere who is very uncomfortable to see people when they are calling out for their freedom. But if you have not lived that kind of oppression, and you like your estate like that, don't silence those who want their freedom. So in this time we see those who are pro-statue and those who are against statue, pro and con. God was against statue because it was a system, it was an empire. And in Daniel chapter 7, empire were beasts. In Revelation 13, the empire is a beast. A beast is an animal. A beast tears human beings apart. A beast kills without mercy. A beast strips people of their humanity. The fact that you are not going through it does not mean it does not exist. This is the biblical view of empire. Empire was not people going around poor countries to help them to be developed, like UK Prime Minister wants us to believe. There is a comment of it which says that the problem is not that Britain is a colonialist or something like that. The problem is that we are not in charge anymore. The suggestion is that they should go back to brutalize people. So if you're a Christian and you don't know where you are standing, God is not for empires. they were all used. Or, that is the biblical interpretation from the Hebrew prophets, to draw God's people to God. So when you see empire going with the Bible, don't draw to a conclusion and begin to blame God. What is God saying? God is not for statutes, but for people. Because statutes represent systemic oppression. And as God raised Gideon, as God raised Moses, as God raised the judges, Deborah, as God raised Jesus, now our time, God is raising people to say no more. It is not by power, it is not by might, it is by the Spirit of God. And I believe these protesters who are protesting peacefully are strongly backed by heavenly hosts. It did not begin with them. Something is happening in the realms of the Spirit, and there is a release to silence the voice of the oppressor. The removal of the statutes is symbolic of the removal, the doing away of systemic oppression, systemic racism. And as the statutes have been removed, I want us to pray that God will work on the hearts of people. It is God that used Gideon. The people of the city fought him. But at the end, the altar of God was erected. And Gideon ruled for years, and the people even begged his children to rule over them. It is God that erects systems of justice. I want us to pray. I want us to pray that God will touch the hearts of churches to stop pampering politicians. I saw the British Prime Minister in one of the biggest churches, black churches in the United Kingdom. They were praying for him. What were you praying for? Because the Hebrew politics was only kept straight because of God's prophets. There were false prophets that were pampering the presidents and the prime ministers, sugarcoating them with